It is 2024, almost 2025, and yet, even though I have the most modern smartphone right now, the iPhone 16 Pro, I am still using a smartphone gimbal with my phone. I'm actually using one right now. So there are 6 reasons why I'm still using a gimbal, even with the latest and greatest smartphones today, and I want to share those with you in this video. Now this video does feature the Hohem iSteady M7 gimbal because this video is sponsored by Hohem. However, no matter what kind of smartphone you're using, I still think that you should still use a gimbal for these reasons, and it still applies no matter what kind of gimbal you're using, even if you're not using the Hohem iSteady M7 in particular. Although this gimbal does have a few bells and whistles that are pretty unique to this gimbal, and they might sway you to get this gimbal over others. But before I dig into the features of this exact gimbal, let's start with some basics, such as why you'd want to use a gimbal in the first place, in case you're totally unfamiliar with them. And that reason is stabilization. Now, smartphones, especially modern ones, have really great stabilization, so in theory you can use them without a gimbal and still get pretty stable shots, especially if you're using something like action mode, which is found on newer iPhones. Now, even though action mode is quite cool and it definitely helps stabilize your video, there are a few restrictions with it. Number one, your resolution is capped at 2.8K, so you can't shoot in 4K. But more importantly, you can only use action mode with the back-facing camera lenses. If you want to use the front-facing camera lens, like I am right now, in order to see the screen so that I can see like what I'm shooting, then I can't use action mode. So right now I'm using the front-facing camera on my iPhone 16 Pro, which is great because I have this huge selfie screen. So I can see myself and what I'm shooting, but there are a couple of problems. Number one, if I start to walk, you might notice that the camera gets rather shaky, and that is because we don't have action mode. There might be some stabilization, but from what I can see, there's not much stabilization when I'm using that front-facing camera, which is a bummer if I ever want to have that selfie screen. So if I want to be able to use that front-facing screen to see myself as well as vlog and still get stable footage, then that is a good time to use a gimbal. So right now I have it on the Hohem iSteady M7 using that front-facing screen to vlog, and you can see that my shot is now very stable. Now the next reason why you might want to use a smartphone gimbal is fairly specific to the Hohem. I mean, there are a few other gimbals out there with this feature, but it's something that I'm not seeing on all the gimbals out there, but Hohem does have it. And oh, looks like I actually just activated it. And that is AI tracking. So I activated it by doing this OK sign. I can also stop it by giving it the palm sign. But when AI tracking is enabled, you see right now it's not. When it is, then the gimbal is going to follow me around just like I have a cameraman. And that is a super cool feature if you are filming yourself by yourself and you might need some help filming. And as you can see, I'm able to control the AI tracking with my hand because there is a module. I keep doing that. That's by accident. But yeah, there's a little module that sits on top of the gimbal, and it's actually detachable. Man, I don't even realize I'm doing that half the time. Okay, we're back. There was a truck pulling in behind me. It's making some noise. But yes, there's a little AI module that sits on top of the gimbal. It's actually magnetic, so it can be removed and replaced if you don't want to use it. But when it is there, you're able to control that AI tracking directly from the gimbal without having to connect the phone to an app or via Bluetooth to something else, which is really nice because a lot of other smartphone gimbals out there do have AI tracking, but you have to do it through the connected app. And sometimes you just don't want to do that. It's much faster and easier to control the AI, be able to turn it off and on directly from the gimbal without fiddling with an app. The other thing that's really nice about this AI module is that it has a built-in LED light. So there's a big wheel on the side of the gimbal, and if I press that button in the middle, I can turn on this fill light. And I can change the color temperature. It can be cool or it can be warmer. And it's just really nice to fill in those shadows. So like right now I'm shooting backlit. So if I didn't have this light on, that's what it looks like. But if I turn the light on, it makes my picture look a little bit more balanced by filling in those shadows. It's one of the main smartphone accessories that I like to have with me whenever I'm out filming besides a gimbal, is a remote control. Because remote controls are really great for being able to start and stop recording or take a picture from afar. So I usually have a little Bluetooth remote that I carry with me all the time in my purse just in case I need it. But this is very specific to this Hohem gimbal, as well as just a couple of others that I know of, but not very many. But that is the fact that this gimbal comes with a little remote control. So it is magnetic. It actually sits inside of the gimbal handle. But if you want to, you can detach the remote control and you can, bring it afar. And when I do that, I'm able to do things like use this joystick to control how the gimbal moves. Ooh, that's nice and smooth. I can also, change the mode. I can start and stop recording. I can preview my image because it has a little OLED display. But yeah, this is much more than a remote control. I love the fact that I can also preview my image, again, without having to use my smartphone app, which if you're using this gimbal, then you've got your phone attached to the gimbal, so you can't use your phone as your preview. So it's really nice to be able to do this directly from this little remote control. Now, even though gimbals are best utilized if you have the motors on and you're walking or moving to stabilize your footage, you can also use them as makeshift tripods. So right now I actually have the gimbal on and it's planted thanks to that mini tripod, and I'm able to just have the camera there and be able to film my video. I could even turn the motors completely off, like if I were to want to save battery life, even run out of battery life, I can have the gimbal just locked at all the axes and just plant it off on the side, and it can hold my camera up so I'm still able to record video. But besides the mini tripod, another thing that's really great about this gimbal in particular that makes it really great for using as a standalone tripod, or even when you are filming with it as a motorized gimbal, is the fact that it has a center column that can extend. So right now I have that column fully extended, so I'm able to sit like this and still be able to capture eye-level shots without having to stoop down low or strain my neck or something. I'm able to sit pretty naturally and have that camera up at eye level thanks to that extendable center column. The center column also comes in really handy if I want to get fake drone shots when I'm filming with the gimbal, or even ultra low angle shots. I'm able to do that without straining myself because I can simply extend the gimbal and therefore extend the camera to be able to get more creative angles. Another reason why I still use gimbals today with all of my cameras, not just my smartphones, is motion time lapses. So if you followed my channel before, you know that I've mentioned these pretty much every time I talk about a gimbal. And it's still one of my favorite gimbal features that you can only do with a gimbal, but that is the ability to do a time lapse. If you do a regular time lapse, then it is static. So you usually have to use something like a Ken Burns effect in post-production to get any other movement out of it. But if you do a motion time lapse or a moving time lapse, then you're able to pan from one point to another throughout that time lapse. And it just gives it a little bit more motion. It just, makes it more dynamic, more cinematic. So I really like, if I'm doing a time lapse these days, then I definitely am going to do a motion time lapse. And that's something that you have to have a gimbal in order to do. And this Hohem gimbal is really set up for it because it has dedicated buttons that helps you set your A and B points or your start and end points for your motion time lapse. They're built into the gimbal. So it just makes it that much easier to do the time lapse without having to connect to an app. And the final reason why I still use a smartphone gimbal with my phone is because that gimbal can act as a smartphone rig of sorts if you ever want to add accessories to your phone when you're filming. And these days I especially love to add an external microphone. You can see I've been wearing this Rode Wireless Micro external microphone throughout this entire video. That just really helps get my sound dialed in, and that's just one of several accessories that I might want to use with my gimbal. The other being a remote control. In this case, it's built into the gimbal, which is really nice. I also might want to use a fill light, which again is built into the gimbal, so I don't have to worry about adding a fill light. So yeah, most of the main accessories that I'd want to add to my smartphone filming rig are already built into this gimbal, as well as, the stabilization. The only other thing I had to add was my external microphone. If you wanted to use another gimbal that didn't have a remote control, didn't have a built-in fill light, then those are things that you might have to add to your smartphone. And when you do that, it adds a little bit of weight. You would have to have other ways. This gimbal actually does have a 1/4-20 hole on the side in order to add extra accessories. And a lot of other gimbals have those 1/4-20 holes on the side as well to help you add those external accessories. But this gimbal, again, really great because it has so many of those things built into it. Now, whenever you do add those accessories though, they do add a little bit of extra weight to your overall rig. And that's another reason why I like this Hohem gimbal, because it's able to support up to 500 grams of weight. As a frame of reference, my iPhone 16 Pro is 199 grams, and I believe the iPhone 16 Pro Max is about 229 grams. So 500 grams is quite a bit more weight that this gimbal could support. So that's nice in this case because I do have my external microphone receiver plugged into the bottom of my phone, and I'm still able to use it just fine. I haven't had any issues with balancing the phone or fitting the phone inside of this gimbal. But the fact that this gimbal could support up to 500 grams makes me really hopeful for the future. In case my phone ever did get absurdly big and heavy. I hope that it doesn't, but if it does, then it future-proofs this gimbal and that it will still be able to support bigger, heavier phones if that ever happens in the future. So those are my main reasons for still using a gimbal for my smartphone in 2024, almost 2025. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you're still using a gimbal for your phone, if so, which one? And also, if you're interested in this Hohem iSteady M7, it is a really fantastic gimbal. I've really enjoyed using it, and I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.